Hey everyone, tomjsherlock here, otherwise known as Tom, and I'm here just to tell you about my thoughts and feelings about what we've seen at SI 2024. I'm flying out to Sao Paulo tomorrow to go join the masses converging on Sao Paulo for the Siege Invitational, and I just thought I'd give some of my predictions and some of my thoughts and feelings about the current state of Siege that we're seeing at the Siege Invitational, So if you haven't been keeping up with it so far, here are the results from all the group games that were played during the previous week. Top of Group A, we have G2 Esports. Top of Group B, Space Station Gaming. Top of Group C, Virtus Pro. And top of Group D is Sonics. In my opinion, I think G2 probably looked the strongest team at this tournament. They didn't drop a single map. Comparison-wise, Sonics also haven't dropped an entire map this tournament so far. But when you look at some of the opponents that Sonics went up against in Fury, Lost, Falcons, Scars, you would argue that's a lot worse pedigree than Dark Zero, Ninjas in Pyjamas, GK and FearX. GK did finish in last place, which I think was a great surprise to many of us. If you hear or speak to any of the players or the people surrounding Siege Invitational, I think GK was a team that was really feared. I think obviously they were missing Leader. We saw Leader and Noodle get that GK team to the stage in Atlanta, so I think Leader was a huge loss for them. I did read on the Twitter as well that Leader and Noodle and one of the coaches of GK had a discussion with the team about keeping Leader on. Leader did tweet this out saying that the decision was made that they wanted to go in their own direction without Leader. Whether they'll rue that or not, I mean, they have ended up being grouped. And they only won 2 maps in the entire tournament, 2 maps out of the 10 they played. But yeah, I think G2 probably looking our strongest going into this. Dark Zero looked decent as well, obviously with those new pickups of Nath and Bolo settling in well. And I think Nath is very much securing his sort of position in Siege as one of the best support players in the game, because not only can he offer that sort of flex support role, he's also added massively in this tournament so far with his fragging capability. And we're seeing Canadian usually get, I think he might have the most plants so far at this SI as well. Nip, a little bit underwhelming, not really a huge amount to say about them. Winning up obviously against FearX and GK and taking 1 map off Dark Zero. FearX, the surprise package with their impressive victory over GK Esports, which I think shocked a lot of people. And then moving into Group B, Space Station Gaming looked ruddy fantastic, I have to say. Really did surprise me with their performance against FaZe. Obviously did lose to Wolves, but Space Station Gaming, they've been cranking it, they've been looking good. And I am intrigued, obviously, with them getting this first seed, of how deep they will go in the tournament. Let's not forget all these teams that have finished in first seed, as you can see here, progressed to the upper bracket quarterfinals, which means they are only 1 game away from making it to the live crowd out in Sao Paulo. So Space Station Gaming, a bit of a surprise package. FaZe look good at times, look bad at times. Yeah, not too sure what to think about them, and obviously they've got a tricky game up against their compatriots of Loss, but we'll move on to Loss at a later part in this video. Wolves, I did tout them as topping this group. I thought they looked very good, but it seems to be that sort of same old story for Wolves, that unless Mowgli or Deadshot activate, they don't seem to go on to win that game. We saw Mowgli in 2 maps against Bliss drop 40 kills. If that had gone to a 3rd map, I think we would have seen Mowgli breaking the record for the most amount of kills in a 3-map series ever in Rainbow Six Siege, which would have been insane. But yeah, I'm hoping for Wolves, as an EU fan myself, that, I mean, they do go up, as you can see here, against W7M in the upper bracket round 1. And I want to see a game. I think if they're going to win that, I think we're going to have to see Deadshot and Mowgli performing at the same time. I think if they pop off at the same time, I think Wolves could beat any team here at SI. Team Bliss, I'm a huge fan of the Aussie boys. I love their style, their energy, the way they conduct themselves throughout the whole of this SI. We'll be going up against the losers of Nip and Fury, which I think Bliss, massive dark horses in this. I think they could easily breeze past Fury or nip the loser of that and maybe make a deep lower bracket run. D plus just looks so far off the pace, minus 30 round difference, lost every single map they played, and there was obviously, whilst they were competing, there was that tweet out from the org that they were looking for players, which is a little bit of a kick in the teeth for those individuals who are probably come off from losing a map just to see that your team's looking for Rainbow Six players. Not hugely inspiring for the team, but nonetheless, I think there's a lot of work to be done there for D+. Now we look at Group C, and probably one of the biggest shocks we've seen in this group. I'd like to compare Virtus.pro and M80, because Virtus.pro, realistically, their international record over this past, 2023, was very similar to M80. They did very well in their regional league in the EUL, but when they got to the international stage, they kept going out in the Swiss stages in these majors, similar to M80 as well. And I want to compare them because Virtus.pro and M80, Virtus.pro made no changes to their roster. M80 brought in Yaga for Kino. So two teams that had struggled massively internationally and Virtus.pro didn't change anything. M80 brought in that one sub. I think this is time to say that M80 project failed. They brought in really, really talented individuals and it just hasn't seemed to click. I would expect a lot of changes for that roster entirely after SI, so I'm intrigued to see. I mean, we've heard a lot from Elegance. We've seen on Twitter, if you don't know Elegance, he's a manager of a lot of the players in Rainbow Six Siege, some of the top tier players, and he tweeted out saying that there was going to be an absolute roster mania after SI, so that'll be exciting to see. But the reason I want to compare Virtus.pro and M80 is they both had similar records this year, but Virtus.pro showed that they've made it work. They haven't changed anything. They've obviously been grinding on getting these strats locked in, getting down these maps, and just expanding that map pool to be more competitive across a range of maps. W7M were a little bit of a shock to me in this tournament so far. If we click here and look at the match details of W7M, we can see that they beat Bleed 2-1, dropping a map to Bleed, beat M80 2-0, but I mean, who didn't really beat M80 2-0? But in those games, it did go to overtime, both games. Managed to beat Liquid as well, but not impressively either. 2-1 against them, so dropping a map to Liquid and Bleed, and then losing to Virtus.pro as well, in what I would arguably say was maybe one of the most entertaining games of the group stages in SI. If you want to go back, I would highly recommend, if you love your top tier 1 level Siege, go watch that best of 3 because it was truly fantastic. Yeah, I think W7M a little bit off the pace, and as I said, they will be going up against Wolves in this upper bracket round 1, and I think if Mowgli and Deadshot come alive at the same time, I think we might see W7M dropping to the lower bracket, which would be a huge shock. And as someone going out to the Brazil in Sao Paulo, if W7M don't make that main stage, I mean, it's their last hurrah. As if you didn't know, the org and the players are separating after this SI. So they've won the Copenhagen Major, the Atlanta Major, and this is their last hurrah to try and win everything they could in a Siege calendar year. Team Liquid, they look so hot and cold. I'm not entirely sure how they're going to do going deep in this. Obviously going up against Dark Zero, who have made some fantastic pickups. I think Liquid will struggle against Dark Zero. They just seem a little bit disjointed, and if you watch any of the casts of the Liquid games, it just seemed a little bit all over the place. Bleed, it's impossible not to love Bleed. I think anyone who's watched any of this SI or the Atlanta Major, I think it's hard not to fall in love with Bleed. The way they conduct themselves is just full of passion. It's entertaining as well, and I think that's what esports needs to be all about, having a bit of passion and making it entertaining for those watching. They will be going up against the losers, I believe, of FaZe Loss. I think Bleed, the way they play, I think they could overcome either of those teams, in my opinion. And then M80, we've touched on already. The project hasn't worked, and it's time to mix that up massively after SI, I believe. Then moving on to Group D, Sonics, as I said, probably the easiest group here at SI with Fury, who are pretty unknown. I mean, everyone seems to have this anti-APAC agenda that they're just not good enough to compete at the higher level in these international tournaments. They won 3 out of their 4 games. The only game they lost was against Sonics, but it was pretty convincing for the Sonics. Loss, let's not forget, they made that miracle run out in Atlanta, qualifying through the open qualifiers and making it all the way to the final. It seems to sort of be that Maya's been taken off that main entry role and sort of pushed down the pecking order a little bit. I'm not entirely sure why that change has been made. To me, I think if I'm the coach, I change it back to what worked in Atlanta, because if it ain't broke, why fix it? So Loss, I think it was always going to be tough for Loss because they had a lot of hype surrounding them after Atlanta. And I think this loss hasn't really lived up to the hype that they brought at Atlanta. Falcons scraping through on the final day with a win against Scars. Obviously played with a different iteration of their team, maybe just finding their feet, and luckily for them, not too late, as they do manage to scrape ahead of Scars. Scars put in some fantastic showings. I mean, you've got to feel a little bit for Rec, and I'm going to bring you up a little graphic that the wonderful Fresh on Death made. And if we look at this is the kills at the Six Invitational, kills per round. You've got Rec, the only player averaging above 1 kill per round. Mowgli in 3rd place at 0.97. And then you also have the fantastic Citizen at 0.99. So yeah, I feel really, really tough on Rec, because I think he's put in a fantastic performance. And I mean, we'll bring up this graphic as well. You can see the kills, the most kills of any players at SI during the group stage. Rec leading the way with 118, only to go home without winning a single best of 3 series. You've got to feel for the lad, an absolute gunner. But the question has to be asked, is this impactless kills? Or is it just that the team around him isn't quite up to the quality of Rec? You have Nesk and Parlu in there fragging out. Parlu, I mean, I think he very much sort of mixes opinions for players, as the term beta going around a lot for Parlu. Reaps looking ever impressive on Bleed as well. The man with the most insane DPI, I think it's 1,200 and maybe a 40 or 50 cents. He literally moves his mouse a millimeter to do like a 360. It's mental. Then Herds and KZ solid. Mowgli, we saw him drop the 40 kills across 2 games against Bliss. And then, yeah, as I say, KZ and Herds as well. But yeah, we'll now move on to what I think my predictions will be for the rest of SI. So during this SI, the wonderful Fresh on Desk again has provided this infographic comparing SI 2023 and SI 2024 here. As you can see, there was pretty much a similar amount of maps played, pretty much similar amount of rounds. But the big difference here is that shift towards the defender-sided meta. And I think there's been a lot of debate this SI about Siege becoming very much more defender-sided. Whether that is because we have 4 hugely powerful operators in Fenrir, Solus, Tabaru, and bloody, oh my god, my brain. Azami, apologies. Azami coming in. With the Vert nade changes coming in, defending is a lot easier. In the past, we saw players being restricted to playing safe, playing on indestructible floors, so they couldn't be naded out of these positions. And I think I put a tweet out the other day saying I'm not sure if it is really this defender-sided meta that's coming in, or if we're just seeing in the group stages maybe more of a swing towards the best teams are able to attack because they go quick, they mix it up, they bring different approaches. So I think in the playoffs, I think we will see a much less defender-sided meta. I mean, watching this back, I could be completely wrong in a week's time when SI has finished. But I do think that we will see less of a defender-sided meta as we see the worst teams get eliminated from the tournament. And we do have another stat here, which I can bring up for you, which breaks this down. I believe this was after day 3. But if you look at that, look at the defender win rate on these maps here. It's massively defender-sided, with Consulate and Cafe being the only ones which are around 50-50. And when you look at Clubhouse, that is 71% defender win rate. And in my opinion, I think it is just because we are seeing the weaker teams really struggle to win attacks. Really struggle to win attacks. When you watch G2 play at this tournament, you could argue that they haven't necessarily played toughest opponents, but they did have Nip in there, they did have Dark Zero in there, but G2 attacked with such pace and precision that it didn't really, this defender-sided meta didn't really seem to affect them a huge amount. So I'm intrigued to see in the comments your opinions about, is the defender-sided meta now a real thing? Is it because of the vert nade changes? Is it because we now have really powerful defenders in and you can't ban them all out? So there's always, well, I mean, you only get 2 defender bans, and I like to call them the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. Tabaro, Fenrir, Solus, and Azami. You're only ever going to get 2 of those banned, with 2 of those always in play. And I mean, maybe it's time that we introduce more defender bans for the future. That could be a fix. I'd love to know your opinions in the comments as well. And now we'll crack on with my predictions for the rest of SI. So as you can see here, we have our full bracket, thanks to Liquipedia, of what is left for the rest of SI. So I'm going to make my way through each fixture and say who I think will take it. I'm going to start with Wolves versus W7M. I think Wolves have this. I think Deadshot and Mowgli, it's finally that time for them to activate. And what an opportunity to do it against the favourites of the whole tournament, W7M. So I'm going to go for Wolves beating W7M. I think FaZe have enough to beat Loss. I think that regional matchup suits quite well for FaZe. So I think FaZe beat Loss. I think Dark Zero are going to be way too strong for Liquid. I think they'll overcome Liquid, which gives us an all-NA upper bracket quarterfinal. Nip versus Fury is an interesting one. Nip have looked really underwhelming. Fury, though, a bit of a surprise bag. I might be going for a rogue choice here, but I think I'm going to go Fury taking this one, which will then leave us with our upper bracket quarterfinals, which will be played on day 1 as well. I think Sonics versus Wolves could be an absolute banger, but I would put down Sonics to overcome them. The way Citizen is performing at this tournament has been absolutely remarkable. And then you've got the young gunner who has just turned 18 as first ever LAN event, Ambi, who seems to be coming good as well. Let's not forget the rest of the team as well. Absolutely fantastic and have been together for such a long time. I think G2 overpower FaZe. I think G2 are probably my favourites to win this whole tournament. And then Dark Zero versus SSG. I think with that pickup of Nath and then Bolo slowly growing into the tournament, getting back used to this competitive style, I think DZ will overcome Space Station, with Virtus Pro overcoming Fury if they make it through. I mean, I think Virtus Pro will be too strong for either of these sides, which leaves us with W7M up against, I believe, Fear X. I might have this wrong, apologies if I do, but I think W7M come out on top of Fear X. Bleed against Loss, I would put down Bleed to beat Loss, because I think Loss just don't have quite the quality that they showed at Atlanta. I think it was a little bit of a miracle run. I think Liquid will overcome Team Falcons, and I think Bliss really will beat Nip or Fury as well. And we're a little bit too deep into the bracket to keep up with everything that's happening. But my prediction for the team that I think will take it all will be G2. I think it could be an all EU final, which I know would be gutting for all the Brazilians going out there. But I really can see it being a G2 Virtus Pro Grand Final, which as an EU fan, I think would be absolutely fantastic. And that's what I hope. I mean, I went to Copenhagen and having to watch an all Brazilian final, it was a little bit gutting being an EU boy. So I think it's time for the EU to rise up and shine and give the Brazilians a taste of their own medicine, watching a Siege LAN event in their home country without a Brazilian team in the final. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'd love a Brazilian team to make it, because I'm going to be there in the crowd and I would love to hear that energy. But I think the EU teams, and I think I do class Sonics as an EU team just because they've got Citizen in there and he's performing so well. I think our top 4 teams at this tournament, I think it's going to be a mix of Virtus Pro, G2 Esports, Sonics, and then Wolves or W7M. I think those are the strongest teams maybe with DZ or SG fitting in there as well. But the best thing about Rainbow Six Siege is it's not a game played on paper, so anything could happen, and this video could completely be a mile off. And I'm just going to quickly show you the brackets and how you can watch the games as well coming up for the first day of the playoffs. So starting on the 19th, the first game of the day on Stream A will be Wolves W7N, followed by Dark Zero versus Liquid, with G2 playing the winners of match 2 and Space Station Gaming playing the winners of match 3. We can have a look at those games as well. So we're going to have FaZe against Loss on Stream B, Nip against Fury on Stream B is the second game of the day, with Sonics playing the winners of Wolves W7N, and Virtus Pro playing against the winners of, I believe it's going to be Nip versus Fury. So that's where you can catch the games. I'll be watching from the airport departure lounge, tuning in. Unfortunately, I can't watch party. But just to let you know as well, we will be recording a vlog for every single day at SI to let you guys see what it's like out in Sao Paulo. So thank you very much for watching a little bit of a different video from me today. Let me know if you're interested in stuff like this, because I usually watch party pretty much every single Siege, EU Siege event or international Siege event going. We've got Malta on the horizon as well, which I'm going to do a little video for if you enjoyed this. But let me know your opinions, and if you enjoyed this, let me know as well, because I just quite like chatting about Siege, to be honest. I wouldn't say I have the most analytical approach, but I do watch an awful and large amount of Siege. So I think I've validated my opinions a little bit to be a little bit insightful. Although saying that, I am bottom of Jessie J Chick's fantasy draft, but that's because I was 8th pick, okay? I didn't manage to get any G2 or W7M main players, so that's why. But see you in the next video. I'm off to go enjoy Sao Paulo. And as I said, there will be a vlog uploaded every single day of my experience going out to SI in Sao Paulo. And I will see you guys back live when I'm back from Sao Paulo. Thank you, legends, and have a lovely rest of your morning, afternoon or day. And it's Tom J Sherlock out. Bye-bye.